Why the felon left the Super Bowl early, and why the DOJ dropped charges against Eric Adams. So, Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, I predicted in my election interference videos in December that you should look for him to be pardoned. I guess, dropping the charges is probably better than a pardon. Um, and the reason is kind of twofold. One, Eric Adams was spreading a bunch of misinformation about how New York City couldn't handle the influx of migrants that were being delivered by planes from the red states, even though we're talking about a very small number of migrants. That's one. And two, Eric Adams, if you look at the DOJ's charges, he was charged with, basically acting as a foreign agent with doing under the kind of blanket of goodness, I guess, business with Turkey. And I think part of that reason why they dropped the charges is they didn't want too much investigations going on because investigations can lead to other things, finding other things. And I think Eric Adams had a connection to delivering information for the Trump campaign through the Turkish connections to Russia and to possibly even Israel, saying, now would be a good time to do this, now would be a good time to do this. Don't think for a second that some of those bombings in Gaza were not planned to coincide to break up momentum that was going for Kamala Harris. They absolutely were. So let's look into that, and then we'll look into why the felon left the Super Bowl early. And I don't think it had to do with the score of the game, but let's look into to those questions. Let's start with Eric Adams. So, was the DOJ, did the DOJ drop charges against Eric Adams as payment for his interference in the 2024 presidential election? Did the DOJ drop charges against Eric Adams, current mayor of New York City, for his interference in the 2024 presidential election? So I've seen the Empress card, which is the card for Russia in the water. That would be it makes sense that, if you're going to communicate with Russia, that you need to use a third party. And why not use a Democrat? So let's see what the cards say. So we get giving and receiving help for dismissing the charges, excuse me. So this could also be repayment of loans and debts, right? So the interference was being repaid uh, by the charges being dropped. The challenge was judgment, right? If this case went forward, and especially into a jury trial, and things started to come public that people probably don't know about, there might be more scrutiny placed on exactly all of these foreign contexts, as well as more investigations. Investigations lead to more investigations, right? It's just the way the nature of the game, and far more could be exposed. So I always thought that Eric Adams was a huge liability once he was charged with the crimes that he was charged with the relationship to his business interactions with Turkey. Uh, we get intergenerational relationships. I think that describes the felon and Adams. In the past, we get loss. So the Five of Cups is in the past. That's loss. They knew they were not going to win this election unless they took some drastic steps. And their biggest hope was to just interfere with the election by bringing up all these painful images of Gaza, by spreading them through Twitter for entertainment purposes only, by spreading them through TikTok, by spreading them through um, Facebook, and all these other social media apps. And if you were on any of those apps at the time, that's all you saw. And even on like Blue Sky occasionally now, you'll get messages from people claiming to be from Gaza. Those messages on Twitter were tenfold what's going on Blue Sky right now. So some of them, yeah, are absolutely scams about collecting money. But for the most part, they were designed intentionally to get the youth vote to either be suppressed or to vote for the felon. And that's exactly what happened. In the sky, we get temperance. So this was to temper her momentum. She started out with a lot of momentum and it got tempered. And in the near future, we get the star card of protection. This is for Eric Adams. He always knew that if the felon were to occupy the White House, he would get these charges either dropped or he'd be pardoned. We get the voters. The voters, you know, didn't really know what was going on at the time. And now they'll probably maybe find out eventually. We do get the Ace of Swords, which is about the truth coming out. So it'll be interesting to see if things do start to get published in the, investigative journalism, which almost feels like an oxymoron in the United States at this point in time. But there are some good investigators still going on, mostly on YouTube and small places. Uh, in the hopes and fears, there was a choice. This was the fear. This is the fear of the voters is that there'd actually be a choice between the felon and the vice president at the time. And yeah, we get partnerships and relationships, and the outcome says Eric Adams and the felon. We get the Justice Department, uh, and we get bombshells and revelations. They're going to come out eventually. So this is just good confirmation that the cards are reading on the right thing. We do get momentum. We got momentum and movement towards the felon in the election. And then we got an end of a cycle. And now we have lots of sleepless nights and anxiety. But I do think eventually all this stuff will come out. And, somebody mentioned today, and I think one of the comments, and thank everybody that watches, subscribes, comments, likes, shares the videos, donates. I appreciate all of that stuff. Um, the comment was about, going from anxiety to calm, anxiety to calm, anxiety to calm. That's exactly what the astrology of February basically says. So I waited to read on this. So it was first reported maybe in late January that they were contemplating dropping the charges, but I waited to read on this until we got confirmation that they actually were, because, you know, especially when it comes to the felon, you never know anything until it's actually kind of out there. Okay, so why did the felon leave the Super Bowl early? Now, the official story, I believe, is that the game wasn't close. I don't know. I didn't watch the game. So, and that his team, he apparently was rooting for Kansas City. I think Philadelphia won. So, I mean, if that is the reason, I don't think that actually makes him look good personally. It makes him look like a sore loser. But um, why did the felon leave the Super Bowl early? So, I got kind of a sense that it had more to do with some health issues, in particular, perhaps some incontinence issues. Why did the felon? Super Bowl early. Yeah, I see the Page of Cups, which could be about loss of control. And I know these things are serious, so we shouldn't make fun of them, and I don't mean to. But again, it's all that cover up of keeping these health problems secret that we have to be mindful of. So we get victory. So the game was settled, I guess, maybe. It's crossed by illusion and delusion. The challenge is actually getting people to believe that that's why he left. Now, some people, half the population in the United States, or half, well, not even half, probably a third of the population in the US that watched the Super Bowl and voted for him, probably don't care to think about it. Some of the others might. We do get the chariot underneath. So this is movement, sometimes chaotic movement. It wasn't planned. It wasn't planned that he was going to leave early. In the past, we get some partnerships that were forming. And then we get the King of Wands, this is passion. There's a lot of passion around uh, the game. He seemed to be very gleeful that Taylor Swift had been booed. He seemed that he was getting cheered, although I think there was cheers and mixtures of boos. He seemed very passionate about being there, and then all of a sudden, I think something changed. And yeah, in the near future, we get walking away from something that doesn't serve us. I think he walked away because it was going to be an embarrassing moment. That's just what I picked up. There was some sort of inevitability. Either he was going to get sick or he had already gotten sick. And this is the card for the felon. So this is confirmation we're reading on the right thing. There was a lot of anxiety that something bad was going to happen while he was there. I think there's anxiety every time that he's in a place for more than an hour or two that something bad is going to happen with relationship to incontinence issues. I know that's not always a great topic. We get dark energy, the high priestess, being left out in the cold, and we get the devil energy. Yeah, mis and disinformation. They're lying about why he left. There's definitely a different reason. I think it's more aligned with what I talked about. We have the emperor, abuse of power, also the card for the presidency. With the two of pentacles, juggling money, juggling health situations. In this case, pentacles and health can go together. Eventually, we'll get the truth to come out, but it's going to take some time. So, anyhow, as I said, the month of February, don't believe what you read without checking it a bunch of times. It's one of these weird energy months where things aren't as they seem. Um, so anyhow, I don't see anything alarming in the near future. Somebody asked me about ice raids. They're going to continue, but they're not going to be as bad as we thought originally. I'll read on that another time and also on some future topics. So anyhow, thank you again for liking, sharing, subscribing. I appreciate everyone in this community. I'll be back with another reading soon.